Hello, this is Gen83, and this is round 9 of AOR this season. We're here in Canada for a very good circuit on this game, I think, and it's unfortunately for me wet in the race, which is a fantastic start because, as we know from the previous race in Baku, in the qualifying session it was wet, I was atrocious, and once again I'm probably going to be awful in the wet conditions here as well. I don't know what it is, I'm just not as comfortable in the wet conditions on any game really, any previous F1 game either, but yeah, I don't know, traction and confidence is something that I feel like I lack a lot. In general, so in a way it just gets amplified quite a lot. But yeah, into qualifying, full dry, which is good. Obviously soft tyres, it's going to be wet at the start anyway, so the first lap was a 9.4. My best I think was an 8.8 or an 8.7. Unfortunately Daigoro does an 8.7 straight away on a banker, so it looks like pole is a bit out of the question if that's just a banker lap, and you can see it going so wide there. I was 3 or 4 tenths up and then lost two tenths at least throughout the corner, that chicane there, so plenty of time to find if I do improve on this lap, but through to the hairpin, braking just after 100 meter board, second gear, try and get nice and early on the power, all up against that wall there, and taking a good exit, almost a 10th gain on the previous lap there, and we're down to third at the minute. Actually on fourth as Scotty goes ahead of me, and coming down the back straight, DRS wide open, coming down to the chicane, really committed through here, and just after the 100 meter board, and fourth gear, not really over the first apex or the second one, and losing it massive in the exit, and getting a bit of damage, and unfortunately didn't even improve on that lap. So yeah, not the best end to the lap there, and that's not going to do anything good for the confidence, but here we go. I actually yeah, went for a second run, 6.5 minutes left in the session, and you can see through turn 1 and 2 here, fairly good exit, almost 2 tenths up actually. That's a very good exit compared to the previous, and down towards the next corner, braking a little bit early, slightly not on the apex there, could have been a bit more committed, but we're a 10th up now. Lost a little bit of time through that turn 4 and 5 there, but down towards the next corner, braking at the orange thing on the right hand side and over the curb nicely. Not the best run through there, and it's a pretty awful exit really, but 2 tenths up nonetheless, and it could be on for a decent lap if I can make a good make this corner very well, and we did that a lot better than last time, almost over the track limits there, but just about keeping it inside. And now 3 tenths up, which is a pretty good going so far. Actually purple it says, which I don't know if I believe, but yeah, second gear for the hairpin, take a lot of speed actually through there, and all the way up against that left hand side wall. We're almost half a second up now. That's a very good run through the chicane, so this lap could be on for something a bit good if I can get the chicane right, the foul chicane. And yeah, almost half a second up and braking just after the bump on the road, and it's going to be very committed through here. Don't want to mess up the lap now though, so not the most commitment, but still pretty good, and we're only lost about half a tenth through there, so coming across the line it's going to be a 9.0, which is fairly good. Like, if that's my lap, I would happily take that. Obviously I'm going to try and improve, and yeah, last lap in session you can see the time's about to go. We're a 10th up. I'm just going to be really committed, just fully send it basically, and now coming down to this corner, braking nice and late, a little bit too early on the turn in there, and unfortunately invalidated my lap, so the 9.0 is what I'm going to have to settle for, which leaves me in 7th place. It's pretty annoying because I thought that lap was actually okay, but yeah, on an absolutely perfect lap maybe I could have challenged for P3, P4, but the top 2 were just so quick around this circuit. I don't know whether it's a specialist circuit for them or whether they're just doing a lot of practice at the minute, but either way, that's left me down in P7 with a lot of work to do for the race, and you can see heavy rain at the start. It's going to get lighter as the race goes on and eventually dry up, but that allows me to run pretty much no fuel in the car because you want to run lean all the way in the wet really. And yeah, onto the far red lights for the Canadian Grand Prix, 7th place on the grid in heavy rain conditions, and it's a short hold and we're away, and it's a pretty okay start compared to MK47, who's a new driver in this tier. Pretty good launch compared to him, already up into 6th place, going down towards turn 1, and Daigoro actually left the session between quali and race because he didn't want to drive in the wet for some reason. Fair enough to him, you know, I don't really want to drive in the wet either, but either way that's going to give me a free position, so effectively in P5 already, and SRT MK47 has to back out of that one. And Daigoro's Ghost is going to be overtaken with pretty easily there, and can get straight on the back of Rockall, who got his first, got a debut podium back in Baku. And yeah, got to try and dispose of him if we can, but he's braking pretty early here and going very slowly on the apex of turn 7 here, and on the exit can we try and get a good run, get the straight in the car up as soon as possible, but no, a little bit of oversteer, and puts any chance of getting past him to the dust. And unfortunately we have to settle for 5th. You see, I feel that's later lap 3, my pace was just nowhere, and it's very frustrating because yeah, the top 4 were just gone, and luckily for me that I actually was able to hold position. You can see Riley, my teammate, who hasn't disconnected yet, somehow 5 laps in, manages to stay in 6th place. He's actually up from 11th on the grid, so it's been a very good opening laps for him. But yeah, my pace was just slower than the cars ahead of me and quicker than the cars behind me, which is a bit annoying. But you can see Big Z and my teammate Riley are in for intermediates already, which I thought was a little bit early. You can see one later, we're going to ask Jeff. and apparently slicks are the tyre of choice at the minute, which I don't believe. Quite clearly it's still heavy rain, so my Jeff was clearly being a little bit weird, so I wasn't really trusting him that much. So when a few laps longer, the gap actually wasn't coming down too much to Big Z until this lap, so it's 12 seconds now. The pit lane's very short here, so it's about a 15-second pit stop. And slowing it down super early. I just didn't want to risk it and get a penalty, but yeah, probably lost 5 seconds slowing the car down that cautiously. But either way, into the pits, 40 intermediates, and Big Z is probably going to be ahead of me still. But you can see in the minimap, Big Z is the Haas coming through the chicane now. There's a massive gap back to the Williams, who hasn't pit yet, edited Fawn. So the chances are a top 5 is pretty much guaranteed because of the field spread of this field is very big. So yeah, coming out the pits in a comfortable P6, which is going to be 5th by the time Giant pits 4 inters, which everyone will be doing fairly soon, as it's definitely drying up now. And yeah, coming on to the next lap, and Giant is indeed pitting now. Big Z has a lap of the race. It's my first flying lap on the inters, and I'm going a little bit slower than him. But yeah, unfortunately, it's a 4-second gap, so it's going to be quite difficult to close him up at all and try to overtake him if I can. But we actually managed to have some good pace in the intermediates. I don't really know where it came from. I did load a wet setup, or I tried to alter my dry setup to be a bit more suitable in the wet, so maybe it was really working in these conditions. But yeah, the gap came down to about a second, and then unfortunately Big Z started going quickly again. So it started going up again. But you see, Jeff told me medium tyres there, which it's still raining slightly. You can see on the halo and stuff, the rain is still coming down. And after what was happening earlier, I just did not trust my Jeff at all this race. So I decided not to pit, which was a bit stupid of me, really, because, yeah, Riley, my teammate, who was behind by about 12-13 seconds, has pit. And coming on the exit off turn 1, you can see it is actually quite slow compared to what it was earlier, because the circuit has just kind of dried up without it even getting any drier, really. But DRS has been enabled, so that would have been absolutely perfect lap to pit. And you can see we're right behind Big Z again, and so Riley was about 12, maybe 10 seconds behind me before the pit stop window. It'll be very interesting to see how close he's going to be afterwards, because if I'd have pit that previous lap, I reckon I would have easily got ahead of Big Z and maybe got towards Rockall. But unfortunately, I was a bit cautious, and unfortunately Big Z is back ahead of me. We've closed the gap very close though, and the DRS is obviously enabled now, so that should allow us to stay with him. But you can see going into the pit exit here, Big Z just ahead of me, and you see Rockall is quite a long way ahead in the Renault on the minimap, and Big Z just ahead of me. Riley says 19.8, which is 2 seconds quicker than my previous best. So yeah, that undercut definitely would have been good if I could try it, but unfortunately too cautious, and unfortunately, yeah, decided not to go for it because of my Jeff being very strange earlier in the race, and Scotty saying 14, so now the circuit's getting so much quicker. But unfortunately, I'm just out of the DRS. You can see it was just over a second at the detection point, so Big Z is going to easily pull away from me. His pace was mad at the end of this race as well, so it's up to 3.5 seconds again. Obviously my wet setup wasn't helping at this stage of the race, but it was definitely helping in the mid pace, so not too bad. And by the end of the race it got very bright, the sun's come out in Canada, and unfortunately it's going to be P5 for me. The gaps were just crazy. I just had no pace to keep up with the top 3, certainly. Big Z was pretty similar to me, but unfortunately no move doing. But luckily for me, he had more penalties than me. So yeah, he ended up in 5th. I had 1 penalty, which I'm fairly happy with, because that's quite an easy track to get penalties around. He had 12 seconds, so I beat him by just under a second in the end. But Ruben and Scotty made it, separated by 8 thousandths over the line. It was an incredible battle for the win. Unfortunately, I wasn't involved at all, but yeah, my championship lead came down quite a bit because Ruben is currently 2nd in the championship, and he obviously won. I came 4th, so back-to-back non-podiums for me after 7 in a row to start the season. Pretty disappointing, but hopefully we can get back up there pretty soon. I need to actually get good again because my pace was nowhere this race, but hopefully in Austria, which is the next race, I can do a bit better. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did, subscribe if you want to see more. This has been AOR F2, and I will see you next time.